Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shalom, shalom, Yashar'el, Yahuda, grafted in Gentiles into the body of a Mashiach. I got some truth, and I gotta get it out. Hallelujah. I got some truth is the title of the song, courtesy of none other than Pastor John J. Tatum. And his album, I Got Some Truth. I don't own the rights to this music. But listen, Yahuwah has put his Torah in me and made me a guardian of his Torah. And I have some Basora, some Torah that I have to get out. Father, in the name of Abba, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I come to you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Yahuwah, I'm praying in the name of Yahusha that you would take the reins of my lips, the reins of my tongue, and guide me every step of the way. Yahuwah, allowing me to say those things that are Ruach, those that are governed by your spirit. Yahuwah, I cannot nor will I want to ever cause anybody to stumble. Yahuwah, to turn away, to walk away from the Basora of truth, to error in the way. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I need you to speak some truth through me. Ruach Ha'Qodesh, I submit to you. I submit to you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. I submit to you, Spirit of Eloah and Yahuwah in me. I submit to your direction, to your leadership. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, Yahuwah, forgive me for anything I may have said or done, Yahuwah, that would cause me to cause anyone to err. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha, lead me by your Ruach Ha'Qodesh. I believe it and receive it. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, I believe it and receive it. I praise you, Yahuwah. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, my strength. Yahusha, my redeemer. Listen. I got some truth. And it's for those who have an ear to hear what the Ruach has to say to the assemblies. I got some truth. John J. Tatum, I Got Some Truth album. Song is titled, I Have Some Truth. I got some truth. And I gotta get it out. Hallelujah. I don't own the rights to that music again. Hallelujah. Listen, I bring you greetings again in the name of our Elohim, our Eloah, Yahuwah and his son, Yahusha HaMashiach, the Basora made flesh. I thank Yahuwah for his son, Yahusha HaMashiach, and for the Basora of truth. I give Yahuwah praise. For he is worthy of all praise. He's worthy of all acceptance. He's worthy of all adoration. He's worthy of it all. He's worthy of all. There's nothing to compare to him. Now, as you well know, we have been in Yahuchanon, right? And we finished the 13th chapter of Yahuchanon, and we are now in the 14th chapter of Yahuchanon. And we know that the 13th chapter, as we just kind of recap what occurred, we have the supper that took place and the washing of feet, right? And the idea of servanthood. You know, the master is not better than the servant, right? A servant, the master must have a servant heart. And how Yahusha himself was a servant. Everything that Yahusha did and represented was service. First in obedience unto his Father, but then to us, his kinsmen. Yahusha served our forefathers, right? He served our forefathers and asked for nothing in return. Yahusha, right? And as a result, he also spoke in that 13th chapter of, in spite of rendering service, you will still have those that will betray you, right? As he had in Judas. And as a result of this, we concluded the 13th chapter with Yahusha expressing the need to keep his commandments and abide in his love, right? Yahusha said he gives you a new commandment. Yeah, that's 13th chapter of Yahuchanon, John the 34th verse. He says, a new commandment I give unto you. And again, we understand the new commandment is not in replacement of the original covenant. Don't get it twisted. You just don't know how many Christian brothers and sisters that I used to have, right? When I talk to them about keeping Torah, they says, we don't have to keep Torah no more. All we have to do is keep the commandment of love. And I don't know how they come to that conclusion, because throughout the Yuchanan, he talks about keeping his word and keeping his commandments. And when you have established and recognized that Yahusha was the Besorah, he was the Torah made flesh, and whatever he said was what his Father said. He didn't say what he wanted to say. He said what his Father says, and the Father always speaks Torah. Right? The Father says something, it's to be obeyed. It's Torah. Right? And Yahusha, right, had all power in the Shamayim and in the earth, had the Ruach Ha'Qodesh without measure, and he still said Torah, what his Father said. So, the commandment to love is not to the exclusion of obeying the Torah and the commandments. You know, it's not a replacement. Right? Oh, we just gonna replace the commandment with love, right? But continue in sin. We gonna replace the Torah with the commandment of love, right? And go to Yahusha anytime we want to when we sin, even committing the same sins continually, and believe that because we love, right? We love. Right, he forgives us because we walk in love. But in reality, you ain't even walking in love. You ain't even in the right relationship with Yahuwah and Yahusha, because he said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. Right, but you keep the commandment of love, right? But you forget about all the rest of the things that he said. You forget about the Torah that his Father gave, you know. And it's interesting because, you know, when you consider the new or renewed covenant under Mashiach, the expectation was that our people understood what they were to do, right? I mean, this was our culture. This was our heritage, right? Now, when Paul went to the Gentiles didn't have that same understanding. They had a life of worshiping paganism and a way of living that permeated their culture, right? But see, when Yahusha came to his people, they understood who he was in relationship to their culture. Now, they didn't believe on him. Some of them didn't believe on him, but those who did, those who Yahuwah had chose to bring to him to receive Yeshua, right? They recognized him in the text. They knew what they had received and what they were taught, right? So the things that Yahusha taught was Torah. They understood the teaching of Torah. Now the Gentiles, they didn't understand that. That's why Paul didn't come to them and say, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Paul just said, let not fornication be named amongst you as becometh saints, right? But we know that in the Torah, right, in the commandments, right, in Exodus, the 20th chapter, he talks about coveting, right? And coveting is a form of fornication, right? I mean, he also says, don't covet your neighbor's wife, right? Don't commit adultery, right? These are concepts that we understood that we were to do, right? So when Yahusha came and he began to preach the Basora, he was preaching what we had heard. Now, here's the thing. There was also this strong influence with the tradition of men after, right, the Babylonian-Persian conflict, the actual Babylon, Persian captivity, right? And with this captivity came a rewrit, a rewrit of the text, right? And also to this whole Talmudian understanding of the Basora of truth, right? So our people became more in line with traditions that became the traditions of men, not the Torah traditions, but the traditions of men. Those things that the Pharisees and the Sadducees had enforced. You know what I mean? They didn't enforce the Torah. You know, the Torah talks about how a son wasn't supposed to do anything that represented disrespect to his parents, right? Right? That's the Torah. But, you know, the traditions of men made provisions. Oh, well, okay. Well, you know, you ain't supposed to, but if you give this offering, you know, you be good. You know, that's tradition of men, right? That's an oral tradition. But this is the thing. It wasn't the Torah, but how people were familiar because they were taught Torah, right? You know, even Paul, the apostle, he was well versed in Torah. He didn't keep Torah, right? But he was well versed in Torah. You know, you can't keep Torah and murder people. Can't do it. Right? Because you violation of the Torah. You understand what I'm saying? So our people understood it. So when Yahusha says to them, a new commandment I give unto you, it is not in replacement of the original Torah, the covenant, right? It's not something new. It's not just this new wave of Christianity, right? Which I consider Christian insanity, because a lot of it has to do with the doctrine of men, right? Things that they believe the scripture is saying without the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, right? So they come up with their own philosophies, their own ideas based on what they perceive the text to mean, instead of Ruachally by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh ministering from a place of understanding the Torah through the Ruach, understanding the Basora through the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. So Yahusha wasn't telling them, look, you can replace the years of Torah that my father gave you and just keep the love commandment. And it don't work like that. So Yahusha talks about loving one another, and he did it by example, right? That's why Yahusha knew that they were going to need the Ruach HaQodesh. You got to have the Ruach HaQodesh. to cause these things, bring these things back to your remembrance. You have to recognize that in the state that the disciples were at that time, right? They didn't have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. They had a living example in Yahusha HaMashiach, right? But they didn't have the nature of Yahusha. Listen. They had a Torah, and they had works that Yahusha did, right, that caused them to have emunah. And even with the works, some of them struggled with emunah, having seen what Yahusha had done. But the idea is that you had to believe on Yahusha HaMashiach. And Yahusha demonstrated his love for his people, right? To the point of laying his life down, to the point of dying for his people, right? So he commands, he says, a new commandment I give you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another, right? So I'm giving you a commandment, right? You better love one another. It's not optional. Now you will have the Ruach HaQodesh, and with the Ruach HaQodesh, me and the Father in you will give you the capacity to walk in obedience, right? And to have dominion over your flesh, right? And be able to abide, continue, and remain in this love, right? But you have to wait, right? You have to understand that you need this Ruach, my spirit, the spirit of my Father, the spirit of me, right? Okay, so he said, by this shall all men know that you represent me. Men will know that you represent Yahusha HaMashiach by your demonstration of love, right? They'll know that you are a part of the family of Elohiym, right? They will know that you are a part of the beloved by your demonstration of love that you show, right? Yahusha said it, right? Simon Peter said unto him, whither goest thou, Yahusha? Whither goest thou? Yahusha answered and said unto him, whither I go, thou canst not follow me now, right? Now you remember there was a time when he had told the Pharisees, he said, listen, where I go, you can't come. He used to say, where I go, you can't come. Yeah, because they didn't believe on him. You ain't going to the rest of Yahusha without having believed on him. And where Yahusha goes is rest. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's got to go by the way of the cross, by the suffering of the flesh. Yeah, he has to suffer to the point of death and be resurrected unto eternal life, right? Yahusha. And in order to achieve this, you will either be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, or you will receive it upon the time that you are passed from death to life, and at the time in which he raises you, right? So the Pharisees, Sadducees, they weren't going. He you can't come, right? Because you don't believe on me, and it's for those that believe on me, right? And he told Peter, look, where I go, you can't come now. Oh, you can't come now. Now you're going to go the same way that I came. You're going to preach the Besorah of truth, right? You're going to reject me, but you're going to deny me, but you're going to preach this Besorah because I know you. And the Father gave you to me, right? Peter said unto him, Adonai, whither thou goest? Whither goest thou? Where you going? Right? Still didn't understand. Didn't understand, right? He didn't understand. You know, Yahusha spoke of being a resurrection and a life. And the disciples were there. They don't understand. Right? But again, you know, it's Ruach. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is revealing things when it's time. That's why when Yahusha met him, right, after his resurrection, right, he began to talk to him, came in and appeared. He breathed on him and told him to receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Because they needed to understand what had happened ruachally. Makes sense. Right? It was that they seen him, right? Yahusha appeared before them. Didn't knock on no door. Didn't request entrance. He just appeared before them. Right? And they witnessed his physical holes in his hands. And the physical insertion in the side where he was stuck in his side. They witnessed it. They believed. But then Yahusha blew on them and told them to receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. He was still in the earth. But he knew that they needed it in order to move forward, even up until the point where he left, and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh that was with him left with him. Because he was here. Right? And then they had to go and wait for the promise. Peter didn't understand this the way we would or even expected him to understand. And because, you know, if the truth be told, you got to take this by emunah. And it's not until you receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh that it opens up to you in different ways. The revelation of it is increased, right? So, he says, but thou shalt follow me afterwards. You're going to follow me afterwards. Afterwards is after you pass from death to life. That's when you're going to follow me. You're going to follow me. And you're going to follow me by being in the way. You're going to follow my path by being in the way, right? Right. You're going to follow me, right? You're going to follow my pattern, right? You're going to follow me and do what I do, right? And then you're going to go and be where I am, right? Let's go. So he says, Peter said unto him, Adonai, why can't I follow you now? Right? I'm prepared to, serve you in your kingdom. Yeah, right? I'm prepared. I'm willing. Look, all hands on deck. I'm here, right? Yahusha answered him, wilt thou? Peter said, I will lay down my life for thy sake. Peter said unto him, Adonai, why can't I come follow thee now? Listen, I'm ready to lay down my life for thee. I got my sword in my sheath. If necessary, we gonna do this. I'm with you. Right? I got your back. Adonai, I got your back. You ain't got nothing to worry about. Yahusha answered him, wilt thou lay your life down for me, for my sake? Truly, truly, I say unto thee, the cock shall crow thrice. The cock shall not crow till thou hast denied me thrice. Now, Peter's thinking to himself, I ain't going to deny you, Yahusha. But he hadn't gotten the concept that Yahusha's word always come to pass. You was the Torah made flesh. So if Yahusha said it, it's going to happen. Everything that Yahusha ever did happened. Everything Yahusha had ever said came to pass. He is the Torah made flesh. He prophesied over Peter. Peter, look, you gonna deny me. Let's go into the 14th chapter. So this is where we pick up after the 13th chapter. Now, after all of this, the disciples are troubled in heart because, now they understand Yahusha's serious about going somewhere and they can't come, right? He's been following you for the last 3 years, Yahusha. I said that you are the Mashiach, the Son of Elohiym. Where we gonna go? You asked us, will we go? After everybody, beat feet and left when you said, drink of they eat of your flesh and drink of your blood. Everybody got out of Dodge that was following you, but we didn't. You asked us, will we go also? We said, no, where we going to go? You have the words of life. We going to leave you? Where we going to head to? And now you telling us you leaving us? And we can't come with you? We've been with you for 3 years. Ducking and dodging the Pharisees. We even was used. We was able to do miracles for you and on your behalf. And you gonna leave us? Yeah, I walked on water with you. I admit, it took me by a surprise, and I started thinking, and of course, I began to realize that this is not what normal people do, but you was doing it because you was the Son of Elohiym, and, where we gonna go? Where we gonna go? Where you going that we can't go with you? Right? So Yahusha is recognizing their feelings, right? Yahusha is touched by the feelings of our infirmities. Yahusha was troubled in his Ruach himself. Yahusha had all the emotional ties to his flesh that everybody else had, right? He said, let not your heart be troubled, right? Ye believe in Elohiym, believe also in me, right? He said, in my Father's house are many mansions, right? In my Father's house are many mansions. He said, let not your heart be troubled. It's the same word that, I think it's the same word in the Greek, where I think it says, be anxious for nothing, but in all things with prayer and with supplication, make your requests known unto Elohiym, and the peace of Yahusha, which passes all understanding, will keep your heart and mind and Mashiach, right? So it's like, don't allow this agitation, this trouble, right, to cause an inward commotion, right, to disquiet your spirit, right, disquiet you on the inside, right, to make you restless, right. He said, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe, he said, let not your heart be troubled. He didn't even say if. It says, ye believe in Elohiym. You believe in Elohiym. You believe in Elohiym. So believe also in me. I've told you on several occasions, I and the Father are one. You see me, you see the Father. He said, my Father's house, in my Father's house, are many mansions, right? So, Yahusha is pointing the direction to where he's going, right? He's establishing with the disciples the course that he's taking, right? Where he's going to end up, right? So he says, my Father's house, which is where my Father is, and we understand that the disciples knew that Elohiym was in the Shamayim, right? And in order to get to Elohiym, how you gonna get there? Right? Yahusha says, in my Father's house are many mansions, right? That word is abidings, dwellings, a place to abode, right? There is a place for you to abode, right? Where I'm going, right? If not, I would have told you, right? So a lot of these italicized words sometimes just kind of throws a monkey wrench in it for me. So I read it without the words that are italicized, because the words of italicized that are words that they entered or they added to the text in order to get a European Eurocentric understanding of the text. English. Right. Not paleo. Hebrew. Right. So he says, if not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. Right. So wow. So Yahusha, we can't go with you. Right. We can't go now. Right. And you leaving, it's obvious, you leaving like really soon. You said your hour has come, right? And we are having a problem with that. It's affecting us in our heart, right? In our soul, in our nefesh, right? He said, but I go to prepare a place for you, right? See, because in order for you to ever get to this place, I have to go the way that I have to go to prepare your reception before the Father. Because you can't come with me now because you have sinned. You can't come now. I have to present myself a living sacrifice unto Abba Yahuah, right? And upon the completion of this sacrifice, this glorification, this process, right, I am going to be in the place where you can now enter because I've prepared it. I am going to offer my blood as a sin offering. I am going to offer up myself as a sin offering and an atonement offering for you. And the only way you're going to get to the Father is through me. But don't be worried. Don't be troubled. I'm making a way for you, right? I go to prepare, right, a place for you. Now, he says, if I go and prepare a place for you, right, I will come again and receive you unto myself. Right? So if I go, because he ain't talking about going and constructing no buildings. Yahusha's not talking about constructing some, you know, he's talking about having sacrificed on the altar of Yahuah that makes them worthy to be partakers of the beloved, right? They are now, right, because of what he's done, right? Because he has made it possible for his sacrifice in the altar of Yahuah, in the Shamayim, right? Yahusha raising him, having raised him from the dead and given him all power. Listen. That's how the way is prepared. Yahuchanon said that he is come to make straight, prepare the way of Yahuah, Yahusha, right? And Yahusha, his way of preparing the way for Yahusha is through baptism, right? Having you confess your sins, right? Right? Being immersed, right? And Yahusha is to baptize you with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, right? With the spirit of Yahuwah and Elohiym. Yahusha's preparing the way. Yahusha told the disciples to wait for the promise because he has prepared the way, and because the way is prepared now, the Ruach HaQodesh, right? Which Yahuchanon? What was Yahuchanon? What did Yahuchanon say? Let's do this real quick. Let's do this real quick. Okay. John's testimony. Yahuchanon, the first chapter, the 19th verse. No, matter of fact. Let's do this. Let's go to the 29th verse, right, of Yahuchanon, the first chapter. And the next day John seeth Yahusha coming unto him, and said, Behold, the Lamb of Elohiym, right, that taketh away the sins of the world, right? Yahusha said in John 14:1, he says, If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again, right? The preparing of the place is the providing of the sacrifice, right? Because he ain't going to build no building or no structure. He's going to offer up himself on the altar of Elohiym, because there is an altar in the Shamayim, right? Because what was a type of on the arets, there is an offering, a sacrifice to be made in the Shamayim. Now, this sacrifice, this altar has been waiting for Yahusha to be, because there would be no other sacrifice that would be worthy enough to be offered on the altar. Yahuwah had already established an altar in the Shamayim for Yahusha HaMashiach to be offered up. Listen, the altars, the service, the structure that was given to Moshe to give to Aaron, right, was a type of, or an earthly representation of an altar that was in the Shamayim. But of course, there was no sacrifices offered on it because it waited for the time in which Yahushua HaMashiach himself would be placed on that altar to correct the sin of Adam and Havah that has passed on everyone, right? Yahushua said, I go to prepare a place for you, right? And I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, you may be also, because after the sacrifice, I will send you the Spirit, the Ruach HaQodesh of me and the Father, that will be in you, that will cause you to be sealed unto the day of redemption, right? So that when that time comes, you could be with the Father. You could be with Yahusha, right? In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, you will experience the change, right? Let's go back to John, the 1st chapter. Yahushua said, behold, the Lamb of Elohiym that taketh away the sins of the world. There was only one sacrifice that was worthy to be offered in the Shamayim. Right. Now, again, Moses and Aaron constructed a tabernacle, right, that was to mirror what was in the Shamayim. Verse 30 of that 1st chapter. This is he of whom I said. Wait a minute, matter of fact, let me go back up. Because maybe. Oh yeah. Let me go up to the 19th verse. 19th verse. And this is the record of Yahuchanon when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Yerushalayim to ask him, who art thou? And he confessed and denied not, I am not Mashiach. No, that's not who I am, right? And they asked him, well, what then? Art thou Elias? He said, no, I am not. Art thou that prophet? He answered, no. He said unto them, they say unto him, who art thou? That we may give an answer to the Pharisees. So, the Pharisees. What say thou to thyself? And he said, I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of Adonai, as said the prophet Elias. I'm just saying what Elias said as the prophet, to make straight the path. Right? So our people recognize that Yahuchanon's message, the immerser's message, was the result of the anticipation, if you will, of the Mashiach's return. Pharisees knew it. John answered and said, I baptize with water. Right? He said, John answered them, saying, I baptize with water, but there standeth one among you whom you know not. Right? Right? He is whose coming after me is preferred before me. Right? Whose shoe latches I am not worthy to unloosen. Right? These things were done in Bethany beyond Jordan, right, where John was baptizing. So John was baptizing in Bethany beyond Jordan, right? And the Pharisees came to him. He says, I'm not Elias. I'm just one coming to baptize. Baptize what? Baptize for the remission of sins, right? The next day, John seeth Yahusha coming unto him and said, behold, the Lamb of Elohiym. The Lamb of Elohiym, right? He who comes to prepare the way of the people to receiving Yahuwah and restoring the relationship of the nation. Restoring them from a place of natural to supernatural. By the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, transforming them into the image of Elohiym, giving them the capacity to love. Oh, y'all don't hear me. Listen. This is him whom I said, after me cometh a man which is preferred before me, for he was before me. And I knew him not, but that he should be made manifested to Yisrael, to the nation. Right? Because the nation had the covenant. Yahuwah sent his son Yahusha, the Torah made flesh, as a lamb to be offered up on the altar in the Shamayim. You should still have to go up, present himself before the Shamayim at the altar. The altar that was made specifically for him. He says, where therefore am I come baptizing with water, right? John bore a record saying, I saw the Ruach Ha'Qodesh descending like as a dove, and it abode upon him, right? And I knew him not, but he that sent me to baptize with water is the same upon whom thou shalt see the Ruach HaQodesh descending and remaining on him. The same is he which baptizes with the Ruach HaQodesh. See, Yahuchanon recognized the nature of his job. He was commissioned by Yahuwah to bring people to baptism by water, right? The remission of sins. Yahusha came as a sacrifice, right? Right? To baptize with the Ruach HaQodesh. Listen, you can't minimize, you can't gloss over, you can't fail to recognize the gravity of the need of the Ruach HaQodesh. He said, and I saw and bore record that this is the Son of Elohiym, right? Again, the next day after, John stood and two of his disciples and looked upon Yahusha as he walked and said, behold, the Lamb of Elohiym. And the two disciples heard him speak, and they followed Yahusha. And Yahusha turned and said unto them, what do you seek? Right? And of course, you know, they sought Yahusha. But the word is that Yahusha came to baptize with the Ruach HaQodesh. Excuse me, Yahusha didn't do anything without the Ruach HaQodesh. Yahusha didn't do anything without the Ruach HaQodesh. You have to understand how important the Ruach HaQodesh is in the awakening. You have to understand how important the Ruach HaQodesh is in the awakening, right? Listen, it doesn't matter how much teaching you teach. If you don't have the Ruach HaQodesh, you ain't going to make it. I don't care how well you teach to your people. If they don't have the Ruach HaQodesh, they ain't going to be able to make it. It is the earnest of the inheritance. It is what Yahuwah sent Yahusha to die and to give them in order for them to be able to be the chosen, to be able to do the work, to be able to preach the Messiah, to demonstrate his power. Listen, he said, John, in the first chapter, the 33rd verse, and I knew him not, but he that sent me to baptize with water, the same said unto me, upon whom thou shalt see the Ruach HaQodesh descending and remaining on him, the same is he which baptizes with the Ruach HaQodesh. He receives the Ruach HaQodesh in order to do the ministry that you had called him to do without measure. Right? To preach the Messiah, to teach the Torah, to do the miracles, to walk on water. Let's go back to the 14th chapter. Yahusha says, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. The place that he prepared was himself. Because without the shedding of his blood, there's no remission of sins. Yes, they executed him as the lamb on the earth, but he still had to go up to the altar in the Shamayim before the Father, who is the ultimate approval of the sacrifice. What was it in the scripture where Yahusha, after he was resurrected, right? Listen now. Mary and Martha came and they seen him at the tomb. They didn't recognize him. He said, what's wrong? He says, oh, we can't find where our master is. We don't know where they laid him. This is paraphrasing it. You know the story. If you don't, it's in there. Just trying to. So Yahusha says unto her, Mary. And there was something about the way he said her name that instantaneously let her know it was him, right? So she went to reach out to take him. And he said, don't touch me, not touch me, not. Because I got to go to the Father with this sacrifice, and it has to go on the altar. Hallelujah. Ruach Holy, Ruach Ha'Qodesh, Ruach Ha'Qodesh, feed your people. Listen. Yahusha had to present himself on the altar of Yahuwah. Touch me not, for I haven't ascended unto my Father. I have still yet to take the offering. The sin offering has been made. I was crucified outside the camp. And I went into Sheol. Hallelujah. Outside the camp. I confronted the Hasatan and the demons and the devils that have fallen. And they thought they was going to hold me, but they couldn't hold me. The Father says, oh, I need the atonement now. I need the atonement sacrifice. Resurrect. Come to life. Yahusha comes out of the tomb for the benefit of Mary and Martha and the disciples. Mary and Martha, really. Mary, who came to the tomb. And you know, Yahusha's compassionate because, you know, she was the one who anointed his feet, prepared him for the burial. She's the one that he wanted to ensure that she had hope. And she went back and told the disciples, listen, he's risen. The master, he's risen. And Peter took out running. Woo! It was Peter, John, one of them. Outran the other. They get to the tomb, they find it ain't emptied. It's gone. She was like, hey, he's risen, just like he said. He told me to tell you. But he told Mary, hey, don't touch me. because I'm a lamb without spot or blemish. The sacrifice that I'm bringing for my Father is sin-free. Because you see, sin offering has been satisfied. Now the atonement has to be okay. That's how they were going to make it to the Shamayim. Listen. Yahusha has to baptize you with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Yahuwah has commanded me to teach you the need for the Ruach HaQodesh, and he has ways of bringing me right to that key ingredient, the necessity of having the Ruach HaQodesh, not just assuming that you have it, but having made requests for this gift and have walked in obedience and received the gifts. Sometimes you receive it instantaneously. Sometimes you receive it as you go in your obedience. But you receive the Ruach HaQodesh because that's the earnestness, right? That's the seal, right? Yahuwah, it's a seal, right? Yahusha said, I go to prepare a place for you. Listen, I go to make atonement for you, to offer up my blood on the altar in heaven, right? Before Yahuwah, right? In order for you, right, to be given a place, right? A dwelling, a part of the beloved. Right, to be a part of, right? He says, and I go to prepare a place for you. I will come again. Yahusha did come again after he went and prepared the place. He appeared before his disciples after his resurrection, after he had made atonement on the altar in the Shamayim and had the Father pleased with his offering. Right? He then returned and met the disciples, right? Came and appeared and told them, look, don't be doubters, believe. Here's the nail prints in my hands. Put your hands in them. Now, you know, it didn't even say that they did or they didn't, but the idea is that they could now touch him. Unlike when Mary met him at the tomb. She couldn't because he had to be the sinless lamb in the Shamayim, on the altar, of which the one in the arets is a type of. Yahusha had to. So now he can say to his disciples, right? And he can also breathe on them the Ruach HaQodesh. Yes, he could. He can breathe on them the Ruach HaQodesh, and they can receive it. Right? And he was still with them 40 days. He teaching them 40 days. Right? So you got to realize, right? Yahusha was there 40 days teaching the disciples. So you know he had to give them the Ruach HaQodesh for that time that he was there, because he knew that they was going to need it just to kind of get them into the place where they needed to be. And then when he left and the Ruach left, he knew the Father was going to send it anyway, because the atonement sacrifice is already made. He was able to come back. Listen, he says, listen, I will come again and receive you unto myself. He came to them, and again and again and again. He appeared to them on at least 40 different occasions. He was seen of the apostles by at least on 40 different occasions. He said, I will come again. He will come again. Actually, Yahusha has probably come again and come again and come again on several occasions, even after this. Yahusha, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, you may be also. See, there's a time when I'm going to come and receive you unto myself. That where I am, you may be also. And where Yahusha is where we want to be. That is even if it's in his kingdom on the Eretz or in the kingdom in the Shamayim. We want to be with him. Right? We do. We want to be with him. We want to be with him, boy. Yeah. You want to be with him. You want to have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. And you know, they said, okay, where I am, you may be also, right? And whither I go, ye know the way. Where you know, and the way you know. You know the way. You know the way is obedience to the Torah. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. That's the way. Walking in obedience to what I have said. What the Torah says. Listen, and you know what? Let's understand this, right? When Yahushua was talking about obeying, he was talking about the commandments in the Torah. Our people understood that. He wasn't talking about some ideal or some kind of Christian ideology. He was talking about the Torah. The way is obedience to the Torah. All Yahusha has ever done is teach the Torah. All Yahusha has ever done is the miracles. Listen, he was in the temple all the time. He was in the synagogues whenever he got an opportunity. Wherever Yahusha was, he taught the Torah. 3 years. He said, you know the way. You have to obey the Torah. It's not a new concept. You have to obey the Torah. You have to obey my Besorah. My good news. The good news is that you can receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh and be back in the beloved if you receive my sacrifice. That's the good news. The good news is that Yahuwah ain't angry with you if you accept me. But if you don't, he hates you and he's mad at the wicked every day. That's why the Pharisees can't come where Yahushua was going. Because they hated the Father and they hated him. You think Yahuwah hated? You think Yahuwah loved them? Listen, you know, I've said this before and I've had people just like, what are you? I can't say that, man. I mean, I've had Christian friends tell me this, right? Tell me, I'm like, Yahuwah don't love everybody. No, he loves everybody. No, he don't. He do not love everybody. He's in fact angry at the wicked every day, right? He is not loving the wicked, right? No, they are like smoke in his nostrils. Right, you know, when I make my staffs, right, I use a device that you use to burn wood, right? You can dial it up to whatever. But, you know, I use this thing, and when I go to burning that bamboo, man, it irritates my nostrils, man. I mean, it just irritates me. And, but I love burning so much, and I love what it does. I like the end results, right? Right. The wicked is irritation, right? So the wicked, right, are not loved by Yahuwah. No. Yahuwah doesn't love anybody that hates him. Yahuwah doesn't love anybody that don't keep his commandments. Exodus 20:6, and Yahuwah shows mercy. Adonai shows mercies unto thousands of them that love him and keep his Torah, right? So it's in loving him that Yahuwah keeps you, right? Demonstrates his love for you, right? You have to demonstrate your love for him by obedience, and he don't love nobody that don't love him. Yeah, well, you know, what about the Hindu? What about the other religions that are wicked? You know, I mean, no, well, they are wicked, but what about the other religions? And and them and their kids? And don't matter. Don't matter. Listen, now if you accept Yahusha Mashiach and receive the revelation of the Torah of truth, Yahusha Mashiach, receive his Besorah, right? And you walk in that Besorah, keeping the commandments, like Paul said, don't do this. It should be named once among you. It's becoming saints, reinforcing the need to keep the commandments, right? You keep the commandments, and you know, you in it, you in, right? Right, you in. You adopted. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, ye may be also. In order to get there, you must be baptized with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Yahuchanon said it. It's he. I baptize you with water, but he's going to baptize you with the Ruach HaQodesh. Yeah, right? And the Ruach HaQodesh is a result of him having offered up his atoning blood on the altar of Elohiym. Right. And that's why when Yahuwah said, listen, Yahusha said, listen, don't go nowhere until you receive the Ruach HaQodesh. You need that which is going to seal you, that's going to abide with you, remain and continue and dwell with you, that's going to cause you to be able to walk in the way. Listen, you ain't going to even be able to keep your walk in the way without the Ruach HaQodesh. If it was important, right, so much so that Yahuchanon said that Yahusha is going to baptize. And you know what? We're going to get to it, but where Yahusha says, where is that? Because we right back here. We right back in this. Yahusha says, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, and he may abide with you forever, right? This comforter, this Ruach HaQodesh, right? Yahusha says, I will pray the Father, right? Because I know how important the Ruach HaQodesh is. Right? And when I take my atonement offering unto Yahuwah, right, I am going to have a conversation. I'm going to petition the Father, right, to provide for you the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Because my atonement alone ain't going to be enough. Ooh, what did you say? You're going to need to have a seal. The blood of Yahusha is enough to cleanse you of your sins. But listen, if you do not have the Ruach HaQodesh, you have nothing that's going to seal you, that's going to cause you to keep his Torah of truth. You're not going to have the spirit of Yahuwah and Yahusha in you. So it doesn't matter if you ask for forgiveness for the atonement. If you don't receive the Ruach HaQodesh, then it's not going to matter. He said that he may abide with you forever. So, we're going to make our way down there, right? The idea is that they know the way. The way is obedience to Torah. The way is keeping Torah. The way is walking in the Besorah. The way is keeping the Besorah. Right? That's the way. Yahusha is the way. That is the way. Listen, right? Thomas said unto him, Adonai, we know not whither thou goest. Thomas, newsflash, Yahusha, we don't get it. We don't know where you're going. We don't know where you're going. Yahusha, we don't know where you're going. And if we don't know where you're going, how could we know the way? Yahusha says unto him, Thomas, who vacillates between faith and unbelief, right? Throughout the time that Yahusha's been with him and the 12, he has vacillated. You know, he's gone from one place to another. You know, most of the time you hear about his doubt, right? His lack of belief, right? Because Thomas here says, Adonai, we know not whither thou goest. I told you I'm going to prepare a place for you. Right? I told you that place is with the Father. Right? And if you believe on Yahuwah, then I'm going to where he is. Right? So I'm going. In order to get there, I have to die. I have to become a sacrifice. Right? And it's necessary that I go in order for you to experience what it means to be in the right relationship, in the beloved of Elohiym. I gotta go. Right? Yahusha said unto him, and I am the way. We don't know the way. I told you I'm going where the Father is. The Father is in the Shamayim. Now listen, they didn't grasp this, right? And see, Thomas didn't even take it with Emunah. You know, he didn't. That's why Yahusha says, Hebrews seek a sign, right? The Greeks pursue wisdom. The Greeks will listen, right, and reason amongst themselves the practicality and the wisdom that's attached to what he says. But Hebrews, man, we look for a sign. He says to Yahusha, Yahusha says to him, I am the way. Thomas says unto him, we don't know where you're going. How can we know? The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is why Yahusha told them that they needed to tarry and wait for it. Because you'll have stuff like this. Have situations like this. Because you don't have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Right. You're asking him to believe on something that you said and not. You are asking him to believe in reference to what Yahusha says, which is really a picture of two different dispensations, right? Because their dispensation, their time, and their experience with Yahusha had everything to do with signs. Whereas we have to receive the Basara and the Torah at the word of Yahusha. And receive the witness without even ever having seen a sign. Now, it doesn't mean that we won't do miracles and see miracles. But in reality, we have to take what we have and receive it with emunah. Right? Even the hearing of the Basora, where Yahusha was demonstrating the power of Yahuah throughout the time of their entire ministry. Yahusha walked on water before Thomas. He told them where his father was. But Thomas is like, well, you know, I'm a Hebrew and I need a sign. I need a sign, right? Yahusha said unto him, I am the way, Thomas. I am the way to the Father. You got to come through me. You have to believe on me. You have to believe on me. He opened up by telling them, believe in Eloah. Believe also in me. If you believe in Eloah, believe also in me. So Thomas, do you believe in Eloah? Because I am the way. You have to believe in me. Listen, I've done so many things in your eyes, you shouldn't even be hesitating on anything that I said. But see, it's like a man beholding his face in the mirror, right? He looks in the mirror and sees it, right? But steadfastly, when he turns away from it, he can't remember what he saw, right? Miracles and gifts, right? You don't require emunah. You just got to accept what you saw. But what happens when you forget what you saw? What happens when you forget what was shown to you physically, right? The image of that thing, right? Listen. When I had a stroke, Yahuwah demonstrated his power by healing me. But it wasn't the fact that he healed me. It was the word that he gave me. At the time that I was praying in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh on that gurney, with my right half of my body and my speech gone. Praying in the Ruach, right? And have him say to me, I got this. Don't worry, I got this. Having answered me as I had prayed in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, right? It's not the fact that I'm walking, because even in my walking, I know that there's a difference. because I know that Yahuwah has healed me, right? But there's always something that reminds you, right? I have his word, his Besorah of truth that he spoke to me, right? As I prayed in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, because that was his word. When you and he told me just like that. He said, I got this. Don't worry about it. And it was like in a matter of seconds, everything that was dead on the one side of me was back to moving. I was back to speaking. He literally touched the place where my brain had the stroke and rerouted everything around it. Because he got this. But it was because I received the Ruach HaQodesh and I was able to pray in the Ruach HaQodesh and receive a word from Yahuwah, right? Now listen, I wasn't in the best place I should have been, right? I wasn't. You know, I was new in the awakening. You know, I mean, I knew I wasn't a Christian. And I know that wasn't working. But I knew I had the Ruach HaQodesh because I've had that all my life. Because it wasn't about that. It was about the Ruach HaQodesh in me that led me and guided me into all truth. Everything that I've ever understood is because of Ruach HaQodesh. The truth. That's why he says, greater, more beneficial are those who have emunah. Who have emunah in what he said. Yahusha said unto him, I am the way, Torah. The truth, Torah. The way is obedience, right? We've discussed this whole idea of the way, right? The way is obedience. Let's do this. Let's do this really quickly. Where am I at? What am I looking at? The first time, right? Because, you know, I Google stuff. I search out words and phrases and the way, right? The way, right? It first appears in Genesis 3:24, right? In this context, he says, Genesis 3:24, right? Because man had sinned and, you know, of course, Yahuwah had put him out the garden, right? And so let's go up to Genesis 3:21, right? And it reads, and Adam also and his wife Havah did Yahuwah Elohiym make coats of skin and clothe them, right? And Yahuwah Elohiym said, behold, man is become as one of us to know good and evil, right? Now lest he put forth his hands and take of the tree of life, right? Which would allow him to continue to live knowing good and evil. And eat and live forever, right? Knowing good and evil. Living forever, right? Therefore, Yahuwah sent him forth out of the garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. Took him out of the garden of Eden and put him out of the garden and caused him to till, right? But listen to this. And he drove out the man, and he placed him at the east of the garden, garden of Eden, a cherubims, right? And a flaming sword, right? Which turned every way, right, to keep the way of the tree of life, right? He prevented them from having the way, right, to the tree of life, right? The way is obedience. Because they failed to obey, right, they became undefiled in the way, right? And as a result of them being undefiled in the way, they could not have access to the truth of the tree of life, the way. Let's go to, let me get another one here. Let's go, let me see. Okay, the way. Let's go Deuteronomy 8:2. Right. And the commandments which I command thee this day ye shall observe and do, that ye may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which Yahuwah swore unto thy fathers, right? And thou shalt remember all the way which Yahuwah thy Elohiym led thee forth these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee. You remember the way of keeping his Torah, the way that he led you through your obedience, right? And the way that he led you because of your disobedience, right? Right? Because you were defiled at times in the way, right? To humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep the commandments or not. The way is keeping the Torah, the Besorah, right? Yahusha says, I am the way. Let's do this. What else we got here? Let's see. Yahu again, the way. He says, and Yahuwah said unto them in Deuteronomy 9:12, arise, get thee down quickly, and answer. For thy people which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They are quickly turned aside out of the way. They were turned out of obeying the words that Yahuwah, their Elohiym, had instructed them. Obeying what Yahuwah has said. He said, which I commanded them, and they have made molten image. Right? Let's do this. Let's go to let's go to Psalms 119:1. Blessed are the undefiled in the way. Yahusha says, I am the way. The undefiled is those in the way. The undefiled are those that are in the way of Yahusha. Thomas says, how we gonna follow you, right? You didn't show us the way. Thomas, what are you talking about? I am the way. He said, blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the Torah of Elohiym. Right. Verse 14 of 119. I rejoice in the way of thy testimonies. The way are the testimonies. Verse 27 of 119. Make me to understand the way of thy precepts. The way is walking in the precepts. So shall I talk of thy wondrous works, right? Verse 29, remove me from the defiled way, right? Remove me from the way of lying lips, the defiled way. And grant me thy Torah, thy way. I have chosen the way of truth. The way is truth. The psalmist says in 119 and 30, I have chosen the way of truth. The way of truth. Thy judgments have I laid before me. The way. Verse 119 and 132. I love the 119th division Psalms. I will run the way of thy commandments. The way that Yahusha is referencing is the Torah. Yahusha has taught his disciples Torah. He has taught his disciples that they must come through him. He is the way. Obey me, obey my words, keep my commandments as I have kept the Father's commandments, right? Obey me, right? I will run the way of thy commandments when thou shalt enlarge my heart. Teach me, O Yahuwah, thy way, or the way of thy statutes. The way is obedience to Yahuwah's statutes. The way is keeping them unto the end. Listen, I like this one. This one is, teach me, O Yahuwah, thy way. Or teach me, O Yahuwah, the way of thy statutes, right? And I shall keep them unto the end. It is to him that endures unto the end. The end of the way, obedience. It is to him who obeys until the end. I can keep going. Yahusha said, Thomas, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. I am obedience to the way. I am the Torah of truth. And in me, you will receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, and that's life. That's the life. That's the eternal life. That is the Ruach HaQodesh. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. We're going to stop there. John, 14th chapter. We made it to the 6th verse, but there was so much substance to that. You have to believe in Elohiym, right? You have to believe that Yahusha has prepared the way. You have to believe that his sacrifice and the preparation that he made in order for you to receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, to be baptized. You know the way. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, you know the way. The way is obedience to Torah. It ain't complicated, right? It ain't even rocket science. It's the way. It's obedience. It's the same Torah way. Our people understood the way, the Torah way, those that are called according to his purpose, right? We who have received the Ruach HaQodesh understands the way. Now, the explanation of the way, right? They knew they needed to keep Torah. They knew they had to obey Torah in order to receive Yeshua. Mary knew that her brother was going to live again at the resurrection unto life because he obeyed the Torah. He kept the commandments. They knew that, right? But Yahusha is the way. You got to come through him. You got to believe on what he says. You got to receive his Torah of truth. Father, Abba, in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, the words you've given me, I've given them. And my prayer is that they have been made alive by this Besorah, this Torah of truth. Yahuwah, I pray that your word would make manifest in them. Yahuwah, I pray that if they have not received your Ruach HaQodesh, the gift, that if they have not made requests for it, I pray that you would make their hearts troubled to the point where they request and ask for and receive the gift of the Ruach HaQodesh. Yahuwah, Yahusha in them. I pray in the name of Yahusha that those who are in expectation right now, that they would receive the Ruach HaQodesh in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, that you would receive the Ruach HaQodesh according to your emunah, that you would receive the Ruach HaQodesh. Now I pray, Yahuwah, that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, and that you would continue to use me as a vessel of the Ruach HaQodesh to be poured out at your discretion for your purpose. And I thank you for it in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Listen, Yahuwah has favored you. You are his people, right? You must receive the Ruach HaQodesh. You better have the Ruach. You better have the Ruach HaQodesh. You better know that you have it. I ain't talking about speculation. I'm talking about know it. Know that it's on the inside of you. And if you are not sure, ask Yahuwah to reveal to you how he has filled you with his Ruach HaQodesh, to demonstrate to you, to reveal to you. And he'll do it because he will, because you love him and you keep his commandments. You obey his commandments. With that, I say, man of Yah, woman of Yah, shalom, shalom, shalom.
Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.